So basically, for today, what I'll be doing is to start out my tack, right? So pretty much this is the original GTS. This is the original GTS clock. However, the RPM or the tachometer that was in this gauge cluster, I swapped it out because it worked, but it wasn't responsive, or it didn't actually match the actual RPM of the engine. So I swapped it out for this one. However, for this one, whenever the car is started, it doesn't really work until like a minute or so after, and it's not accurate. Pretty much it's faulty. So I'm going to pull down the dash, the center console, remove the cluster, and swap out the tachometer back to the original one, which I figured out what was the issue with that one. This one is pretty much faulty. It works sometimes, so pretty much I'll be just removing it, replace the tachometer, reinstall it. For the persons who know original GTS, the original tachometer stop at 9,000 or 9,000 RPM. This is the original cluster. As you can see, it has the check engine light. However, this was from a 4-wheel drive GTS. I don't have a 4-wheel drive GTS, that's why you see the anti-lock. However, I replaced this tachometer because the original one that came in the cluster, it worked. However, while revving the engine, it doesn't actually match the RPM. It's pretty much slower, so it's delayed. Right, for this one, when you start the car, it doesn't really work. Sometimes you turn on the ignition, does pretty much some weird stuff like jumps and stuff. So as well as it is not accurate, and it is also not responsive at times. So pretty much the original one that I took out, I think I figured out why it wasn't responsive. So I'm going to remove the cluster, remove the tachometer, replace it with the original one that was here that revs to 9,000, and then I will show you guys how you can wire the tachometer if it doesn't actually work, because more than likely for persons with a B13, the tachometer don't work. Sometimes it's the actual tach itself, it's dead. However, sometimes it's the actual signal that is sent from the ECU isn't being read by the tachometer. So what you have to do, you have to run a wire from the distributor coil, that's it, the engine bay, run a wire from there to the actual tach. Well, not directly to the tach, but you can. However, for my car, this is where my tach signal would input, and then there's a wire leading from here pretty much to the tach. So all I did was run a wire from the engine bay into the loom, connecting it to the pin number 2, I believe, from the ECU. But I snip it from the ECU and just connect it directly from the wire coming from the engine bay, which is then run through this connection here. There's a connector on the back that I can disconnect, but it pretty much connects to the tach. So pretty much that's what I'll be doing. Alright, so if you have this type of distributor, you see where it says pin 87, that's where you take the coil wire from. It will be either a green wire or green with yellow stripes. Alright, so it will look exactly like that. So either that's green and yellow, however it can be green like I mentioned before. Alright, so this is for an external coil distributor. Pin number 1 would be the same green wire, which will be the coil wire. So it can either be the same green or green with yellow stripes. And then where you see it says TAM on the cluster, that's where you put the coil wire.
in order to get the RPM working.
Alright, so pretty much to remove, not sure if you hear me clear, but pretty much to remove the tack, you have to remove the under tray here, shift, the thing that holds the shift boot. You have to pull out the center console, and there are some screws under here, 2 screws up here. Alright, so here goes.
I'm lost in a city, still so far from home. I've searched for you all my life. Cast out like a shadow, racing towards the light. I pray to see you one more time. Stand by, watch me fall apart. I've always loved you more than you know. Father, don't you let me go.
Alright, so this is what I was mentioning. Alright, so this is the original rev or tachometer. As you can see, 9,000 versus 8. So this is the original tachometer. There is a clock that goes here that shows the time. Unfortunately, when removing this tachometer from the actual cluster, it was damaged. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do about this hole here. I'm not sure, because if I try to swap the face, then the needle when going up in RPM won't actually match what will be showing on this, because as you can see, 8,000 is here, but on this clock 8,000 is here. So pretty much 8,000 on this clock is where 7,000 is on the other clock. However, to remove the tachometer, there are 3 screws here. So 1, 2, 3. You're going to need to pull those, and then there are some clips. The face itself, that's in the clear face, you don't need to pull off the clear face because there are 2 separate clips. So there are clips here at the front. These are for the face. The second clips is to actually separate the back from this section. So it's 2 sections here and then the face. So it's pretty much 3 stages, right? So you want to pull the one at the back. So looking at the back of the cluster, these are the clips that you'd want to push in to separate the back from this part. Alright, so this is what it looks like after you remove that section. So as you can see, this is the face. So to remove this now, this is where the 3 screws that I was mentioning come in. Be careful how you put this down. So it's these 3 screws here. So that's 1, 2, 3. Can pull these with my hand. So once those are pulled, then as you can see, the it just fell right out. So with this ref tachometer, as you can, alright, look, you realize that I moved the needle and it is pretty much, it just stays. It's not supposed to do that. It's not supposed to do this at all. It's supposed to be completely free like this. As much as you might have a ref or a tachometer or the cluster and you see the needle drop down to this side, that does not mean that it is not working or it is faulty. What happens is that once the ignition is on, what I've noticed is that once the ignition is on, you see how I can do this and it pretty much just goes wherever gravity pulls it. Once the ignition is on, I can no longer do that. So pretty much even if I bring it to this section, it will automatically reset back to 0. Alright, so for the gauge now, how I pretty much combat the actual remember I was mentioning that with this gauge, when it revs, it's slow. So pretty much combat that is, there's a needle. Alright, so for this, because I had to disassemble the other tack, so for this you realize that, sorry, the pin that pretty much reads or connects with the inner part of the tack came out with the top part, right? You don't want that, because what will happen is when you push this back down, the pin will not go far enough inside the inner part that it goes to, right? And then when you put on the top now, it's not going to be elevated. So basically when you push this in, it will be very, very close to the face or the back. So that's going to cause an issue, because it's going to be rubbing on the surface, which is going to cause resistance. So pretty much the pin that's inside, well, there's a pin in this one now. You want to make sure, what I did was to pretty much use a screw, focus, put it above the pin and tap on it until you feel like it's all the way down, and then you connect the needle on top. Alright, let me see if I can get something as a mount. Alright, so pretty much this is the needle that I'll be using from the tack that was in it, because this is in good condition. The one that was in 9,000 RPM clock, as you can see, it's cracked. So what I'm going to do is going to use a pliers. Alright, so there's some there's a spline on it. The camera won't focus enough, but right here there's a spline on it. You don't want to hold in this area to damage it, so you pretty much want to hold above, hold the top, pull the pin out. Fairly easy. For the clock side of things, as I mentioned, you get a screw. So pretty much once you pull the pin out, the part that has the spline on it, that's the part that goes down. You want to put that back in there. Get the screw, put it on the top of the pin, get something to tap on it, You're not trying to smash it through the entire thing, you just want to give it a few light taps where you feel like it's 100% seated. Then for the needle, how you install the needle is, so as you can see, this is where the needle would go. So you slightly put it over it, and then this thing here that you'd use to level it or to make sure that it is at 0, you make sure that it is completely resting on the spin. Then you want to put a little force on it. Alright, so pretty much this is with the needle installed. How you're going to calibrate this, you're not going to put on the face on the clock, you're going to install it in the car and then start the car and let it basically reset. Then you remove the pin and try to get it in its original position. Alright, so as you can see, free. So let's try to reinstall it in the car and see what happens. Pretty much this is faulty, so I'm going to reinstall this. So that should be good there. So flip it over, reinstall the 3 screws. Just keep in mind the location of the screws. There are no screw actually goes in this hole. It's just these 3, so like a triangle. Alright, so reinstall those. I'll also drop a clip showing how the actual how this one actually works when it feels like, and I'll also show how it is unresponsive too. I think I have a few clips of that. Where I can show you, but pretty much you bolt back the 3 screws in, you clip on the front, and then so pretty much I'll tighten these screws, put on the front, and then I'll be back at the car to reinstall it and test it. So quick little update after looking at the clock. There's going to be a empty space here, so to eliminate the empty space, I'm going to reinstall the original timepiece that was supposed to be there. It's not functioning, however, just to not have a big empty white space in the clock, I'll reinstall it. So quick update. Alright, so as you can see, the time is working. Weirdly enough, it wasn't working before. Anyways, pretty much going to try the cluster to see if it is working. Alright, so here's the key. Let's try to start it and see what happens. Alright, so you see, now that I turn on the ignition, how the cluster place the needle at a particular position, I realize. See, pretty much reverts it. So what I'm going to do now is that you notice where the needle is at, so it's the second stroke up. What I'm going to do, that's going to turn the ignition off and then try to put it at the 0 mark. Oh damn. Alright, let's see. Probably can just remove it like this, put it at the 0 mark. A little too tight. Still not 100% 0. Alright, let's try to start it and see what happens. Alright, so that's not accurate at all. As you can see, it showed that it was at 2000 RPM when in fact it should be at around 1000. So let's try that again. So pretty much figured it out. So as you can see, it stays at the 0 mark. Alright, so that's it. So that is how you calibrate it. So just to go over how I calibrated it, I let the engine run. Right, it was at around the 2000 RPM mark. I know that's not where the engine is idling. Right, so pretty much while it was at 2000, I removed the needle, brought it down to around 900 RPM because that's where it's supposed to be, then put it back on. It stayed at 900 when I rev it, responded, shut off the car, and that's how you know that when it is pretty much calibrated. Once you turn on the ignition, the needle doesn't move at all. So that's that. So just start it on once more, let you see it. Alright, so pretty much all I need to do at this point is to put back the face, fit up everything, putting back the air pressure gauge, and yeah, so just going to run a quick video, clip up back everything, get everything connected, and be right back.